right. Good evening, SACE National family. It is that time again for our monthly SACE National Leadership Webinar Series. So I'm very excited about tonight's event. We got a very special guest speaker, and really looking forward to the content as well tonight too. So before I actually bring him to the screen, again I want to do some housekeeping. So again, right here in the top right of your screen, you're going to see a little checkerboard icon. And when you click on that icon, it's going to allow you to toggle back and forth between our showcase feature and our question and answer feature. So if you go ahead and click on that right now, you'll see in the showcase feature, there's a link to our registration page and our sign-in page. So go ahead and click on that and sign in. Let us know you're here. We do appreciate you taking time, especially right now with the beginning of school starting up. So it definitely does say a lot for those of you who are taking time out of your schedule to improve your leadership qualities. And so tonight's presentation is going to be just perfect for you. And again, as the other feature is going to be the Q&A, the question and answer portion. So again, a very interactive webinar series that we have here. So now keep in mind, we're going to have about a 20-second delay from when we present from our end to when it reaches you on your screen. So we definitely encourage you to ask questions as they come up during the presentation. So the presentation is going to be about 20 minutes, followed by about 10 minutes of Q&A. So when we get to that Q&A portion, if we already have some questions in the queue, that'll allow us for a smooth transition. So if you want to go ahead and submit those as they come up, we would greatly appreciate that. So with that being said, I now get the honor and privilege of bringing to the screen our special guest presenter. So Mr. Tom Fernandez, as many of you already know, has had a very prestigious career with Procter & Gamble. And in that time, he was also the co-founder of SASE. So he is the reason why we are all here, not only just on this webinar, but from coast to coast, all the chapters here. So through his success, he's turned around and really passionate about giving back and helping you grow and you succeed as well, too. So I'm really excited because he's going to be sharing his story and even the content of tonight's webinar, how these leadership styles has helped him to develop SASE to where it is today and how you can utilize these qualities as well, too. So after Procter & Gamble, Tom actually started a business in 2012, grew it to 27 employees, and then sold it as a very profitable business just this last July 2015. So right now, Tom is considering new business investments and meanwhile continues his passion for SASE. So again, we're very excited to have him here. And Tom, I now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Matt. It's my honor to be here with you tonight to share for the first time ever SASE's 6E leadership model. Our model is very personal to me since I see my own journey in it. I believe that thousands of SASE students and professionals will benefit from using our model. One of the things we're really proud of is that SASE is an open society. So whether you're Asian or not, everyone is welcome within SASE. To all the students, I want to welcome you tonight. I wish SASE had existed when I was a student because I see so many of you taking advantage and growing through SASE, and that's wonderful. To all our professionals on the webinar, every day you are in a sink or swim work environment that requires leadership. That's why I think you'll enjoy and benefit from using the 6E leadership model. And if you happen to also be a recruiter or a manager, then I see that you have an even higher responsibility and an opportunity to use this model, especially to value Asian leadership styles even more, because I see these often undervalued. And we'll talk more about that later. There will be time for question and answer, so please be sure to write down questions as you think of it. And let's just have a wonderful webinar and learn together. And so with that, I'd like to give an overview of the 6E leadership model. I see the SASE 6E leadership model as a game changer and a unique opportunity because it reapplies what's worked for 2 Fortune 50 companies, General Electric and Procter & Gamble, plus it builds on what we've learned within SASE. I think everyone can benefit from our model, starting with high schoolers, all the way to those en route to becoming CEOs, and actually the CEOs themselves. The people who I think will benefit most from our model are single style leaders, especially those whose style is being quiet. Quiet leaders, who can be wonderful leaders, are the most at risk of being seen as a weak leader. And I think our model can work because it pushes those to consider one of our 6 E's, and that's being elastic. So our 6 E's, think of it as a toolkit, and the more E's that you have, the better off you'll be. So from the top, the first E is envisioning, and that means defining your vision. Then we have engaging, sharing that vision with your group. Energize, you have to excite the organization to your vision. And then empower them by removing barriers. Executing leadership talks about creating, then adjusting plans based upon what you observe. And then unique to SASE, elastic leadership. It's a critical skill where you have to adjust your style to deliver the results you need. Our model builds on General Electric's 4E model and the Procter & Gamble 5E leadership model. I was trained in the P&G model and benefited from that during my 23-year P&G career. The GE model and the P&G model works, so SASE members can be confident in reapplying them. However, I noticed, especially when I was in management decision meetings to vote who got promoted or not, that people who were more visible and more vocal during meetings would often be perceived as the stronger leader and would get the promotion over quiet leaders. That's why we created the 6th E of elastic leadership. From my 30 years of experience, both at P&G and then in industry, the predominant leadership style is to be a quiet leader for Asians. And for every one Satya Nadella from Microsoft, there are 1,000+ quiet Asian leaders who are undervalued currently and get paid less and are underpromoted. Despite the recent success of Asians in tech companies that many of us have seen, there's really 40 more years of data, and still the current reality is that Asians are underrepresented in companies. So we really feel our model works, especially elastic leadership for Asians. Further, and perhaps more importantly, our model can help train corporate America, those managers who evaluate all the personnel, including Asians, to recognize Asian leaders more and recognize their strengths and accelerate them through the promotion pipeline all the way to CEO. Now let me introduce the leadership assessment. Our leadership assessment uses those 6 E's in the model so that you can rate your current leadership capability and critically examine your rate of leadership growth and examine how your peers see you and think about if your leadership style is sufficient for what you want to accomplish over the next 6 months. Some of you may have already completed the leadership assessment. That's great. That allows you to go ahead and think through this webinar to your advantage. If you haven't completed it, that's fine too. We'll encourage you to complete it as soon as the webinar is over. Our leadership assessment then also allows you to select 2 E's as strengths, and then also select 2 E's as opportunities to work on, and then look at your work plan for the next 6 months ahead and choose projects so that you can improve those target 2 E's. What I would like is that our standard greeting at all SASE meetings is, tell me about your 6 E's. It's really an easy icebreaker and represents SASE's strategic shift to focus on leadership development. And now I'd like to provide some context regarding the progress that we've seen in the United States in the past 25 years. When I entered the workforce in 1988, I was part of Procter & Gamble's minority internship program. That program no longer exists, thankfully, because of minority hiring progress. In only my 3rd year in the company, the federal government released in 1991 the Federal Government Glass Ceiling Commission report, which described the unseen yet unbreachable barriers that keep minorities and women from rising to the upper rungs of the corporate ladder, really regardless of their accomplishments or qualifications. And 4 years later, in 1995, they made some recommendations where then Secretary of Labor Robert Reich said, for real change to occur, bias and discrimination must be banished. I want you to just read this slide over again while I tell you a little brief story. I really felt lucky to work in a company so progressive as P&G. I was vaguely aware of the Federal Glass Ceiling Report. And in general, I consider myself to be a fairly level-headed and not a rock-the-boat kind of person. But in 1994, I opened my big mouth. Let me rephrase that in SASE 6E terms. I became an elastic leader and changed my style in order to make a point. In 1994, I wrote an angry but thought-provoking one-page report at P&G that I named The Importance of Michelle Kwan, and that changed my life ultimately forever and led me to co-found SASE. I really remember to this day how I felt then in 1994 and how angry I was that Michelle Kwan, an Asian American figure skater, competed hard and scored high enough to normally have won a spot on the U.S. Olympic team. But in the end, U.S. figure skating management intervened and awarded the spot to Nancy Kerrigan. And some of you may remember that whole scene. I argued in my position paper that if you play by the rules, knowing that really Nancy Kerrigan also played by the rules and she did not ask to be injured by her fellow skater Tanya Harding, I concede that. But I argued if you played by the rules, you should be rewarded. And when was it finally going to be an Asian's turn to get the benefit of the doubt to show what she or collectively Asians had to offer? Well, I submitted my report to the highest levels in P&G purchases, and I was summoned the next day to my boss's office, and I really thought I was going to be fired. Instead, they offered me a unique opportunity to be the head of P&G's product supply recruiting program. And wait for it, to work with college students like many of you on this webinar. By 2004, I was promoted to Associate Director, which is an officer level of the company. And I was the first U.S.-born Asian American to be promoted to Associate Director in Purchases. By being an elastic leader, I showed a different leadership style than my norm and made a strong point that people saw and supported. And as a result, they gave me a great assignment as the face of P&G as the recruiter. So let me transition now to 2015. And I believe that we have made progress, no question about it. However, the 2011 findings of the Center for Work-Life Policy showed that Asians were still perceived as unassertive and lacking leadership potential, and that a key finding also showed that Asians were underrepresented in top leadership roles at the CEO level by 250%. So Asians being 5% of the population, but only 2% of CEOs. So more than 20 years later, after the Glass Ceiling Report, it's clear that we have a long way to go for Asians to reach their full potential. and we simply cannot wait another 20 years. So tonight we're here to accelerate that change, one person at a time, but that starts and ends with you. So I hope you're up to the challenge. So let me talk a little bit about leadership. Leadership is the most basic expectation in professional life. For all the students on the webinar, you need to display leadership in order to just earn an opportunity to interview for an internship, let alone a full-time job. Professionals, you already know this, but every day you need to consistently lead in order to not only be considered for the best roles or promotions, but in many cases to simply keep your role, keep your job. And I believe that leadership, more than any other skill, is the performance evaluation differentiator. And if I could choose only one skill for Asians to focus on, it would always be the elastic leadership skill. I've seen it time and time again over my 30 years where this specific skill, elastic leadership, would have helped Asians who are often perceived as less capable as leaders than their peers. I want you to focus on being elastic in a particular style of leading from the front. And that really means to be more visible, more type A, which is still the most common leadership style in America. I challenged our SASE community to use our 6E model, but especially the elastic skill, and force a conversation with your peers, your teachers, your recruiters and bosses about what your skills are and what you bring to the table. Importantly, I want to recognize that none of what we're doing tonight, none of what we need to do individually to change perceptions about Asian leaderships relieves the bosses in corporate America from broadening the definition of leadership to include more of what Asians bring to the workforce. I've reflected myself on why Asians don't lead from the front in particular. Why aren't they vocal in meetings? From my experience, the biggest reason is our cultural tradition of respecting elders. It was a constant struggle in my 23-year P&G career to challenge my elders' authorities or their opinions. Thankfully, this was caringly pointed out in an authoritative manner by my manager, who told me point blank, it's okay to challenge my elders, and it would be a career limiter to me if I did not. So I implore you, be visible, be elastic, figure out what it takes to be heard. Talk actively with your bosses about the SASE 6E model, and then share your experiences so that you can achieve your full potential. I want to encourage you to invest in the tool itself. Use it and introduce yourself at SASE meetings by saying, tell me about your 6Es. I think you'll see your skills grow. We encourage people to repeat the use of the tool as often as 6 months. And by actively discussing your leadership style and then hearing another SASE member's style, that's actually key to growing your skill and have others perceive you as being a strong leader. So to help the 6E model come to life, we've asked 2 SASE members to go ahead and share their personal experiences. And we'll start with Matt Diaz, our SASE Collegiate Program Coordinator, to share his experiences. So over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Tom. So my whole life, I've been passionate about helping others tap into their personal greatness. So when I personally took the LSA assessment, it was no surprise for me to discover that my 2 most dominant E's were that of empower and elastic, because I've been very fortunate to be able to help people in many different walks of life, different areas of life as well too. And so when I also took the assessment, what I did discover is my 2 E's that were my biggest opportunities to grow, and that was envision and that was execution, especially here in the world of SASE. So what I've done to help me work on each of those areas of my personal leadership is, so for the Envision, I created a set of affirmations that can allow me to really focus on where this organization is going. And so the way I see it in my mind and help me remember is SASE is the go-to global organization for leadership opportunities and leadership development, where individuals of all walks of life are drawn to become members of SASE to make a greater impact within their careers, their families, and their communities. And what I've done to focus on increasing my execution E is to establish a duplicatable system that will allow SASE to continue to improve the quality of our current chapters nationwide, as well as transition collegiate leaders into national volunteer positions, and really continue to build a foundation that will allow SASE to continue to expand both nationally and internationally as we continue to move forward with the years to come. So thank you for having me share my portion of it, and Josephine, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Josephine Fernandez and I am a senior at Sycamore High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am an empowering leader because I was the first person in the world to take the SASE leadership assessment, not only once but twice because my dad made me, but also because it really helped me further my skills as a leader. I'm also working on my engaging leadership because I'm here tonight at this webinar to help you guys utilize this tool, as well as to get you guys involved in projects like I'm working on right now. I work at our local pizzeria on the weekends, and there I try to practice my elastic leadership by being able to communicate effectively with my coworkers and managers to be able to work as a team and really be able to serve our customers well.
Thank you, Matt and Josephine. Our goal through the SASE 6E leadership model is to have a result of more CEOs like Indra Nooy from Pepsi and less of the person on the right who is struggling in silence. Our goal is to build leaders one person at a time, and that person is you. Our goal is to show employers that we are training stronger leaders and that we have the data from our leadership assessments, especially in how employees see their and students see their own growth, to show how we are strengthening leadership capability. So I encourage you, please take the SASE 6E leadership assessment, practice it everywhere you can, in class, at the office, and reach out and ask your fellow SASE members, tell me about your 6Es. And I hope you can participate in the SASE 6E leadership workshop at the national conference. You recall our national conference is this October 8 through 10 in Houston, Texas. I hope to see many of you there, and where we'll have a full workshop on the leadership assessment and certainly help each other grow our skills. So to wrap it up, before question and answer, what I wanted to make sure that I offered is that I want to personally commit to help anybody on this webinar who uses the 6E leadership model to go ahead and send it to me and reach out. And here's my email. You can reach out to me and share with me your model, and I can share with you mine, and then we can talk about it and help each other. And I will ask you, tell me about your SASE 6Es, and then I'll share with you mine. And then here's the link to that assessment itself. So we have some time for Q&A, and I'm happy to field any questions. So thank you very much. There was a comment here, and I wanted to just recognize it and thank the person for it. Wataru Sano. Thank you very much. If it's all right, Wataru, I'll read your comment. Wataru Sano writes, I've found I need to generate massively exaggerated value to break through bias and discrimination. Thank you, Wataru, for sharing that powerful comment. In many ways, I recall meetings that I was in at P&G where, my lips were moving and no one was hearing me. And your words reflect and emanate well through me. So thank you very much. Okay, there's a question here. So thank you. How do you share your vision without overwhelming others, especially if parts of it may conflict with their own agenda? That's a terrific question. I think the first thing is that I'm happy to see that you will share your vision. So the first thing is share your vision, and then worry later about the conflict with somebody else's agenda. So if you're not heard, you're not even in the game. Okay, so make sure you're in the game. Be heard. Be visible. And then this is where I think your question highlights the need for elastic leadership. So elastic leadership requires you, let's look at that definition again. Elastic leadership is the ability to transition leadership styles fluidly to be effective in a variety of situations to achieve your vision. Now, Wataru, thank you again for that question. Part of it may involve you knowing that there will be conflict. And so you have to internalize and strategize up front. Well, how will this person respond to this? Are they going to be aggressive? Are they going to want data as part of the conflict in order so that you're prepared? So I think my first answer is be heard, and then think through, use your elastic skill to figure out how they're best going to be able to hear your conflict, hear your opinion. I hope that helps. You can ask a follow-up if not, and we certainly can come back to it. There's a question. It's an excellent one. There seems to be many things that we can work on. How can someone start in a small way? I think that's a great question. That's why we picked in the model 2 E's to affirm what you think you're doing well, but then only pick 2 of the 6 E's to focus on development. So we made a choice. Don't pick all 6 E's to work on, just pick 2. And those 2 can change over time. So for example, if you picked energizing and empowering leadership, then the leadership self-assessment will take you through some questions to think about what you want to accomplish for the next 6 months so that you can target activities to demonstrate those 2 skills of energizing leadership and empowering leadership. So when you pick those projects, we think that that's a small way, a focused way, because you're going to know what you want to accomplish better than anybody else. And then you'll be able to reflect, and hold yourself accountable. And anybody you share the model with, can hold you accountable too and encourage you. So if you say, okay, I'm going to work on this, my OChem project, my project with my team, I'm going to work on my energizing leadership, and I have to excite the people in my project team, my OChem team, to my vision, and then make sure that we all allocate time to achieve that. Well, you can then assess, when we met as a team, here's what I'm going to do to energize them, and then evaluate whether you believe that you were effective, and then of course adjust. So by picking those 2 E's and not all 6, we hope that we've narrowed it down so that you can start in a small way. And I hope that answers your question. but certainly you can do a follow-up as well. So there's another question here. Specifically, when practicing elastic leadership, what is a good way to determine the line between assuring quality execution and micromanaging and draining motivation? That is a phenomenally good question. In a lot of ways, Wataru, I think you're just going to have to take the pulse of the organization by using your engaging leadership skills. So once you've laid out your plan, and once you essentially use your executing skill to figure out if that plan is sufficient or not, yeah, there is absolutely a fine line between assuring a quality execution and then micromanaging. Micromanaging, I think, is a key one, because the heart of the matter in micromanagement is that you don't trust you aren't perceived as trusting those who are given the task at hand. So in the micromanagers, whenever I was in a situation of micromanagement, I was really specific with the person that I was either managing, who complained of my micromanagement, to say why I was concerned. So you have to be specific. So if you micromanage a situation, there has to be clear evidence that the person is not doing the required work to achieve the vision. Again, you're going to have to choose what that is, because you're absolutely right. It will drain the motivation if others don't agree with the style. So if they believe that, look, you've given me the task and now you're micromanaging me, you are absolutely at risk of breaking that trust. So again, I would say lay out clear expectations in your executing leadership style. So the executing leadership style says create and adjust action plans to achieve the vision. So if there's clear evidence that there's not the correct action according to the plan, then I would call it out. Absolutely call it out. That's your job as the leader. Okay, here's another question. I think it would be beneficial to get different viewpoints on your leadership assessment. I agree, using the 6E model. There may be gaps on how your direct reports view you compared to your peers and direct manager supervisor. I think that's a great point. Now, so the model allows you to self-assess how others see you. So it's not formally asking them unless you've gotten pieces of data. So we made a choice of how to construct our model as a self-assessment. And to this very good question, I agree that it would be beneficial to get different viewpoints. And there's a terrific tool out there called 360 Leadership, which Procter & Gamble used. 360 is, if you can imagine, a circle. It was designed as a situation where you could get feedback from all around you. So 360 degrees, if you will. So where you specifically asked people for feedback on your style. So using our model, it's somewhat limited, but that's why we ask you to ask people, tell me about your 6 E's. And so if I were to ask you about your 6 E's, you would tell me, and then trust me, I would now make a note of, okay, who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? And then do I see evidence of it? And then we as a SASE community can provide feedback. That's the whole point of asking each other, tell me about your 6 E's. And you can say, well, either I saw the growth or I saw your evidence, or honestly I didn't. And again, it's not necessarily to be critical so much as to be encouraging, but I hope that answers the question. So take advantage of asking each other about the 6 E's, and also think of other models beyond ours, like the 360 feedback model. Thank you. These are all really good questions. So are there any other questions this time? If not, that's fine. Okay. So, okay. Something's popping up on my screen. It's another one that says, is there a... oh, no, maybe not. Okay, is that all the questions then? Okay, so back to you, Matt. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom. We definitely appreciate you taking the time and all the energy and effort that you've done up to this point to really get the leadership of self-assessment to where it is today. And so to piggyback off that last question, when we went from the paper outline to the digital form, which is now available when you log into your SASE Connect account, you can actually take the self-assessment right there in your profile. And there's also an email link to where you will be able to email your peers or your direct management, and then they will be able to select which qualities of leadership that they see within you as well too. So just an additional tool that we were able to install as well too. So just wanted to make that point. And so in closing, you know, this was definitely a great presentation. I got tons of notes over here, and you know, keep in mind this is something that is already established or very similar. You know, it's already been proven in Procter & Gamble. It's already been proven in GE, and so we're very fortunate to have it right here at your fingertips as well too, especially at an early age to where you can keep taking it every year, twice a year, every 6 months as you're progressing, and you can actually see your growth, and you can also display that growth to the recruiters when you come across them. And so in closing, I'm really excited about the next webinar that we have in store for you as well too. The next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, September 30th, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're very fortunate because this is going to be a unique webinar. We actually have 2 individuals from Shell who are going to be training on that webinar. We have Krishna Bhattaru, who's a project manager advisor, and Bing Lee, who is a senior process economic evaluation engineer. And so the whole topic of this upcoming webinar is enhancing your interview skills. Students will gain information to help them sharpen their interview skills. This presentation will cover tips and suggestions on how to prepare for behavioral interview. This is going to include tips for before, during, and after the interview. So going to be a very powerful webinar, considering this webinar is scheduled exactly 1 week prior to our national conference. So it's definitely going to help if you do your homework, you take the leadership assessment, you're going to be involved in this interview skills enhancement webinar as well too. So when you show up to Houston, you can be that much more well prepared. And so, in closing, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Oh, and one last thing. On the Friday at National Conference, there's actually going to be a workshop designated specifically for the leadership self-assessment. So when you get out to Houston, make sure you pull up those details. Find out where exactly that's going to be. Tom's actually going to be there in person. So the fact that he's able to, willing to share his email with all of us for that additional feedback truly is valuable, especially with as much as he's accomplished and as much as each of our members want to aspire and accomplish as well too. So with that, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your beginning of your school year. We're really excited for this upcoming year, national conference as well too. So we will see everybody on September 30th for the next webinar. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.